Hey everybody, welcome to episode 7 of the Clanker Chronicles. My name is Sean, aka Smarshall. Last week we had a look at security, and this time we're bringing out the big guns. Quite literally in the case of this episode, as we're looking at some supersized robots that you can actually sit in. So sit far back, grab some popcorn. Well, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, it's time to talk about giant robots, or mechs as I will call them. You see, I used to play a game called MechWarrior back when I was much younger. You would pilot these giant lumbering robots equipped with an array of weapons, taking on armies of other mechs and saving the universe along the way. Of course, there was also Robotech, Macross and Transformers that helped form the man-machine link. They always made you wonder about doing it for real, actually sitting inside a mechanical robot. Well, there are a few people who have made that their very goal. We begin in Japan, of course, with a robot called Landwalker from Sakakibara at Kikai. This was the original bipedal mech you could actually sit in. It had a cool outer shell, very much in MechWarrior style of robots. It was 3.4 meters in height and weighed about a ton. Top speed was 1 mile an hour, so you won't quickly be popping down to the shops in it. The walking was a bit slow and not really convincing. It actually stood on wheels and was more like shuffling than actually walking. This whole contraption was powered by a 250cc four-stroke engine, which meant it was somewhat underpowered for the task. Still, you were able to buy one of these for $350,000, and they were made to order. Now we get on to Kuratas from a company called Tsuyodabashi Heavy Industry. In 2012 they released the Kuritas, which is a 4 meter tall robot weighing in at 4 tons. It had stumpy legs but with wheels on the end with a base that could raise and lower itself. These sorts of wheeled combat robots are not uncommon in anime. You could sit in the pilot seat and have the front console drop down in front of you, just like you'd see in many an episode. No doubt that moment would make any mech head grin from gear to gear. It had some weaponry, though these were relatively safe, being a BB Gatling gun. At a height of 4.5 meters and 3.5 tons, the Archax from Tsubame Industries is no small robot. It is fully boardable. You can see the pilot getting into the cockpit here. The cockpit closes decently quickly too.
Hatch closed. Main switch on. Unlock parking brake.
It's fairly mobile, also on four wheels, similar to the Curitas. You can see it lowering its center of gravity here to make the motion more stable. Fully articulated arms and hands with an impressive amount of movement. It was designed to be mass-producible and aimed at heavy-duty or experimental use. Units are priced at $3 million and the company still seems to be making them, though the volumes are incredibly low and taking about 18 months to just build one. The Japanese don't have it all their own way. There is a US offering that made a big splash about 10 years ago called the Megabot. The Mark II robot, or Iron Glory, was the product of Megabots Inc., an ambitious attempt to make a mega robot fighting competition. At 4.5 meters or 6 tons, it is one of the largest in the list. It had 2 human pilots and a number of armaments built in, including a cannon capable of delivering 1 kilo or 2 pounds of paintballs. In fact, they challenged their rival Japanese manufacturer Curitas to a duel, which was duly accepted. This generated huge publicity for the team and even set up a Kickstarter to help fund the upgrades for the duel. Well, that was pretty successful, and they raised $500,000, which helped build the Megabot Mark III, and that was used in the duel. The Mark III was powered by a Chevy V8 and had an interchangeable weapons attachment in the arms. It debuted in 2017 for the duel at the Maker Faire Bay area, where it punched up some Toyota Priuses. The duel itself was held shortly afterwards in Japan. They battled it out in 3 rounds, and it was filmed over a few days to allow for repairs. The ultimate champion was the American Megabot. It was the chainsaw attachment that helped seal the win, as it damaged vital systems in the Curitas. The Megabot cost a huge amount of money to run and maintain, and had to be sold on eBay for a fraction of its production cost. Bill Payne from Straight Up Racing bought it and added it to their fleet of destruction robots. They already own a Megasaurus car crusher that is used frequently in their shows. The thing with giant robot fighting leagues is if a human has to pilot one in combat, then it's not going to be that long before someone will get seriously hurt, if the robots are any good. Wars, maybe, but sports, no. I have mad respect to the team from Megabots for doing it anyway. They were probably a few decades ahead of their time, but it is amazing they broke the ground like they did. Literally. There is one more North American giant robot company out there that is worth a mention, mainly because they have a huge robot you can sit in that actually walks around. They're called Exosapien Technologies from Canada, and this is their prosthesis mech, which is really cool. It is not quite bipedal, it uses a planar leg mechanism to achieve its motion, but it is effective and the legs actually work. Unlike the giant robots we've seen so far that all have wheels or tracks. This also means it can handle more versatile terrain, like going through the forest or heading down into water. It is just a prototype, so not for sale at the moment, though they are working on a smaller product called the Exoquad that should go to market, which looks really cool. It's some kind of mutant four-legged rollerblading robot. It's aimed at being an augmented vehicle that you control with all four limbs. You can adapt to and handle very uneven and difficult terrain quite easily. It is aimed at extreme sports and rescue and response. And priced at $250,000, which seems like a lot, but yeah, what a toy to have. Which brings us on to our final giant robot that is actually bipedal and one you can actually buy. Well, soon. And only if you have a spare $650,000. This is the GD01 from a Chinese company called Unitree. It stands 3.5 meters tall and is a robot you have to be able to get in to use. Shipping starts early 2027 and will probably have limited availability. It may also be affected by some new legal limits, which we will get into in the news. It's fully bipedal, and Unitree say that there are other modes that the robot can operate in, like here. I'm not sure what your seating position would be in this setup, so we'll have to wait for some more details. A French startup has completed testing of a new engine that will be used in their new hypersonic suborbital drone. Andromach has successfully fired up their experimental Banger engine 21 times in a row. Banger is not a sausage, or an indication of the age of the engine, but the engine's prototype name. The thrust certainly looks solid, with some diamonds showing. The engine is one of the trickiest parts of an aircraft like this. Hypersonic is from Mach 5, and getting up to that speed is not easy. This successful test takes them one step closer to a working aircraft, and they're expecting deliveries sometime in 2028. Generative Bionics shows off some big updates to their Geno-1 robot. This includes a full-body tactile skin that allows the robot to detect touch and proximity. It also has a physics-native AI, meaning it more fundamentally understands how objects will interact when moving and connecting. There is just this cool-looking video so far without much further detail. It will be good to see some of the more comprehensive demos of both the new tactile skin and the physics-first AI, but this is definitely one I am keen to see more on. SpaceX has launched a new satellite for Northrop Grumman, which is an interesting concept. There are two machines, one is called the Mission Robotic Vehicle and the other is a Mission Extension Pack. The two machines are designed to extend the service life of a satellite. Satellites will often reach the end of life because they run out of propellant on board. Though instead of acting like a filling station, the mission extension packs are jetpacks that can be attached to the satellite. That is the job of the MRV. There are 3 extension packs or MEPs in this launch, and this can extend the life of a satellite up to 6 years, which is quite impressive. No indication on cost as yet, but I think it's safe to say not cheap. Finally, it looks like foreign-made humanoids have been banned in the US. The FCC placed advanced robotic devices onto the covered device list, which basically means it cannot be approved for use within the US. This covers humanoids as well as quadrupeds and other autonomous robots. I'm not particularly shocked by it. These are a new class of devices and there is still a lot of regulation to come around them. Many of these devices have a dial home capability, but many will also receive new updates and new instructions over the air. They are not passive devices like your smartphone or laptop. They are built to physically interact with the world. So I think it makes sense to be sure that it will function correctly. This will also go some way to helping the domestic production as well. And I wouldn't expect the ban to last more than a few years until some guardrails can be established. This also won't affect individual components coming in, so hobbyists and DIY market will have plenty of options. Trump is making the change immediately, so we will likely see the effects very soon. Personally, it looks like an opportunity for someone to set up shop in the US. This is going to be a massive industry. Everyone has a car or a washing machine, and if you're early in the market, it's just a huge opportunity. You wouldn't even have to make the robots. You could come up with the equivalent of a car freshener or bumper stickers. And yes, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Clanker Chronicles. What did you think? Which robot would you take into battle? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're there, also remember to please like and subscribe. That really helps us out. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.